Okay, so it's time to talk about investment. There's two types of investment that you need to be paying attention to, and you have to understand what it means for a girl to invest. Like, what are we talking about when we say investment? Okay, so there's emotional investment and there's logical investment. I think this is a term that's really thrown around a fuck ton in the pickup community. Like, most guys, when they hear investment, they think, I want the girl to chase me and need my dick. Sure, that's a part of it, but a big part of investment is who is putting more effort to win the other person more. Like, a relationship or just a dynamic of male and female interactions is constantly a balance of who is trying to win more. Who's the buyer, who's the seller. So when you learn investment properly, when you learn, the advanced level investment, when you learn how to have a girl invest in you properly, you're going to be having less of that seller dynamic and more of the buyer dynamic, and the girl will have to fall more into the seller dynamic. Okay, so we're going to crack into what it means to have investment. So again, like I said, there's two basic types of investment. There is emotional investment and there's logical investment. We're going to talk about both of those, and then we'll get into how to elicit emotional investment, and then we'll talk about when you want logical investment. So the first thing is emotional investment. So emotional investment is a clear demonstration of feminine energy. That's the definition of emotional investment. Basically what it is when the girl is clearly demonstrating emotional energy to you, or feminine energy to you. When she's like giving you those oh my god emotions, she's like oh my gosh. And what happens is when a girl is giving you those feminine emotions, she's going to be more likely to act in the moment. Perfect example of the difference between emotional and logical investment, and we'll talk about logical investment in a second, is that when what I would do is I did like an experiment with a couple girls that I was sleeping with. I would try to have sex with them at certain times, like when they weren't feeling it, but I would be like, hey, let's have sex. And the girl would most of the time be like, I don't really feel like having sex. Like, I'm not in the mood, or right? And what would happen is when I did that, and when I said let's have sex and I made it logical, the girl was like, no, usually. But the second I made it emotional and I just picked her up, spun her around, threw her on the bed without her expecting it, and started making out with her, and I was like, I just want to fucking kiss you right now. Or I just want to spank you right now. I just want to tie you up, baby. Right? I just want to pin you down and just fuck you. Like, when I would say things like that, and I would make it about, the experience. Remember, we talked about this earlier when it comes to, taking girls out of the club or taking girls home. You want it to be about the experience, not about the act of doing the act, right? So what I would do is I would say this, and the girl would fall into that frame. And she would begin to chase so hard. And then I'd be like, I'm not going to fuck you. Then after I'd get her so turned on, I'd be like, I'm not going to fuck you. Then she would jump on me and be like, let's make it happen. We have to do it. We have to do it. Right, that's the difference between emotional and logical investment on your part. Now, you as a man, you do have to invest, right? You do have to invest a bit. But what you need to learn how to do is know when you need to invest emotionally and when you need to invest logically. And also how to get the girl to invest emotionally and how to have her invest logically, okay? So what happens is emotional investment, when you're talking to a girl, emotional investment is reactive investment. So emotional investment from a girl is her reacting to something that you are doing or being. Now, what you want to do, the sweet spot, is get it to where you're being the kind of guy that constantly has girls reacting to you. And this is, what I practice in my own game. It's like with the girls constantly reacting to how I'm being, where I literally could just stand in interaction and say nonsense just because I want to, but the girl literally will react to the way I look at her. That's powerful investment. That's like powerful game, right? When you're coming from the frame of being instead of doing, that's when you're going to get the girl reacting to you and being in reaction instead of actually logically saying, maybe I'll fuck him, maybe I won't, and giving you a bunch of fucking objections. That's you get girl. That's what emotional investment is. That's what you want to be doing. Those are the deeper layers. Remember, unlocking her emotions. Those are the deeper layers of emotions. There's also logical investment, and this is where most guys are stuck. But there is a place for logical investment. Like I'll talk about, there's a time and place for logical investment. Masculine demonstration is when the girl is going to logically invest. It's kind of like when the girl is being more logical, and like you want to see her on a date, for example, or a girl is like, no, I'm not going to go home with you. I really can't. Sorry. Thanks, but it was nice meeting you. That's logical investment, because she's logically deciding, no, I can't do this, and logically committing to a plan and not wavering from it is a masculine decision. Again, being all over, that doesn't mean men only can do this, women can do it too, but being all over the place and emotional and, oh my God, I don't know what I want, I'm up and down, hot and cold, that's the feminine emotion. But when a girl's actually investing in you properly, when a girl's genuinely chasing you, she's going to be giving you those emotions. But when the girl's kind of like, I'm deciding if I'm going to see you again, or I'm deciding what I'm going to do, I'm deciding where I'm going to go in this moment, that's logical, right? And it's not that that's bad, but that's generally not ideal when you're trying to get girls, when you're trying to get laid or take girls home the same day. And then the other thing is long-term planning and commitment. So if you want to go to make long-term plans, this is what we talked about in the getting solid numbers, setting up dates video. You need the girl to actually commit to seeing you again. You need to make long-term plans with the girl. It can't be like just here, take my number, because it's emotions. It's in the moment, which means she's going to change those emotions later on. It has to be her masculine energy saying, okay, I'm going to see this guy again. I'm committing to seeing him. You know, there's a difference. That's the difference between being a guy who is going to be getting consistent results and a guy who's going to be getting off results. Okay. Now, when it comes to logical investment, the final thing you have to understand is that it has to come from a grounded frame. This is why so many guys' logical investment is so bad, because they get a girl to logically invest in them, but the guy himself is being all emotional all over the place because he's trying to get emotional investment. But the girl's logically investing, and it's terrible because he's not grounded. You have to come from a grounded frame if you're going to get a girl to logically invest. You can't be all over the place, up and down, not knowing what your path is in the interaction. Like, again, when you lead, remember we talked about knowing what your plans are, like knowing what you're going to do next. You can't not have that and have good logical investment. The girl has to understand, hey, this guy is actually serious about the plans that we have. He already has them planned out, and we're going to go at that. That's how you have proper logical investment. You have to be grounded. When you're being emotional, when it's or not you being emotional, but when the girl is being emotional, she's going to be all over the place. But if the girl's being logical, she's going to come from a more grounded, relaxed frame, and you have to maintain that frame as well. Let's talk about how you can actually elicit emotional investment, because that's probably one of the biggest things that guys don't know how to do, and that's probably one of the most important ones. So emotional investment comes from, the root of it stems from the absence of your investment. And you guys have seen this in my infield. The absence of your investment creates her emotional investment. Remember, the number one rule is what? Say it with me. If the girl is attracted and you don't overinvest, the girl will have to invest. If the girl's attracted and you don't overinvest, you're not investing, the girl's going to have to invest. Right? Attraction equals investment. So that's why I say be an attractive man. If you're an attractive man, the woman is into you, she's attracted to you, she's like, take me and fuck me. Maybe she doesn't say that all the time, but she's giving you the signs she's attracted to you. She's engaging you on this positive wavelength. And you don't overinvest. You don't invest. You take away that investment absence. The woman will naturally begin to invest. How do you do this? Number one is removing your validation. So instead of overly chasing the girl and giving the girl a fuck ton of validation, being like investing and chasing and chasing and chasing, and being like, I like this about you, I like that about you, I like this about you, I like that about you. Remove your validation. You don't want to constantly give her validation. That's why I tease girls, for example. I'll tease them in a joking way. I'll be like, oh, so like, let's say a girl says that she doesn't go on a lot of Tinder dates. You guys saw maybe on the date poll that I had, that I broke down for you guys. The girl says she doesn't go on a lot of Tinder dates. I'll be like, oh, so you're scared of guys, or you scare guys away? Should I be worried about you? Right? Should I be worried about you? You hear what that says, right? Should I be worried about you? Now I'm putting a challenge before her. I'm challenging the girl. I'm like, should I be worried about you? So now she's going to be like, shit, this guy's not chasing. He's not giving me that insane validation. I'm removing my validation. Other thing is, maybe when the girl says something about herself, instead of me responding, like, again, the girl says, what's her name? And she said her name. Instead of me saying, ah, nice meeting you, I'm also such and such, and exchanging, instead maybe I'll take it away. Instead I'll be like, decent. Cool. And I'll lean back and I'll let the girl look for my validation, let her chase my validation. The absence of me investing equals her emotional investment. Other thing is giving away and then taking away your attention. That's powerful. And this is something I learned from one of my mentors back in the day, Pierre, who's actually the guy who started me on this whole like advanced journey of game. And I talked to him in the Mentor Manifestos. It's really insane. Pierre is a master at giving validation and then taking away validation. It's like you give her attention, validation, attention, similar things. You give her attention and then you take it away. So it's like at some moments you're like, I like you, you're on, you're on, you're on. And then some moments you're just like off. And the way you do it is maybe sometimes when the girl says something that you don't like too much, maybe pull that investment back. Have your own boundaries, right? Have your own fucking boundaries of what you accept, what you don't accept. Another part is not reacting. So non-reacting to the girl. So when the girl says something, don't react to it every time. Like a lot of times you guys you notice how when I talk to a girl, I don't have a very strong reaction every time she says something. Sometimes I will, sure. But like if the girl says she does something for work, I'll be like, oh, you're fancy. Or sometimes I'll be like, oh, cool. That's it. I'll be like, impressive. And artiste. And I'll tease her. Instead of me saying, that's so cool, and having a big reaction, it'll be small. I'll be like, ah, decent. Like, decent. I'm not very impressed. Right? Because you're not investing. Again, the second you're like, oh my God, you're so amazing because you have this quality. Oh, I see. Wow. Wow. And the girl's going to be more masculine because you're over-investing, so she has no room to chase you. But the second you take that away, remember we talked about flatline tonality, flatline communication with the verbal game? The second you take that away and you take away that emphasis on, amazing, I like this about you, I like that about you, blah, 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 the girl's going to have to fucking chase you. She's going to have to invest. She's going to have to chase for your validation because you're taking away your attention. You're not being reactive, and you're not just giving her tons of validation, right? You're letting the girl chase you. Now, another way to elicit emotional investment, aside from the whole absence of investment, is setting a we frame and what I call we storytelling. If you make the interaction about you and her, the girl will chase you. Most guys don't do this because they think that the interaction is about them doing game and them trying to get into the girl's pants. But remember what we talked about, game is just you maintaining attraction until you can actually take the girl home or until you can go on a date with her, right? But what you do is when you set the we frame, that you start to tell stories like both of us are doing this together, the girl gets more and more bought into the narrative. So if it's like, we're going to do this. Let's think like the we narrative, like we're going to go and we're going to have 10 babies and we're going to live in a castle on Nim's Island. I'm just making up weird shit now. It's like when you come from that frame and you make it about we, the girl's going to be like, shit, I want to be bought into this too. Again, I'll tell girls, I'll be like, come with me to Japan, stay in my cabin. We'll make babies and we'll be by the fireplace and we'll have an amazing fucking time. We can look over the entire city, Okinawa. And yeah, that's that. Right? It's like I go to that frame. The frame that I go with her is a very we frame. Like we're going to do this together. And when you do this, you get the girl in something I call wife mode, where she actually thinks that she's like your girl for the night. And I do this in the club. It's crazy. Like I'll have girls follow me around the club the whole night. This is how I used to pull on programs, and I would teach till like 4 or 5 a.m. when I was doing crazy hardcore programs every weekend. What I would do is I would just keep girls around the whole night, and then I'd pull them at the end. I would just have them follow me around because I'd get into this we narrative. Like, we're going to do this together later. We're going to do this. We're going to go back and drink. We're going to go back and smoke. We're going to go on this crazy adventure. You're my little stripper. We're going to have a lap dance. Like, all this shit together. All right, we have this future together. You get the girl into wifey mode. You start to paint these pictures. And this is advanced. Again, I'm not going to get into the micro details of the exact line you say, because that's not going to help you. When you're out in the field, you're not going to be thinking, when I say in the field, I mean when you're out approaching girls, you're not going to be thinking like, shit, oh my God, how do I get her into we mode? I can't, I'm in wifey mode. I'm not saying the exact line. You won't even think of it. It just flows. You just do it. Because again, it's not just do it. I'm not saying like be the natural guy, but I'm saying you think of it as in, let me tell a story about us. Let's talk about our future plans together. That's how you do it. There's no line. It's just, let's talk about our future plans. And exaggerate it. Remember we talked about the power of exaggeration when it comes to keeping your verbals emotional. Exaggerate shit. That's how you are emotionally irrelevant. You exaggerate shit. You don't have to make it fucking basic. Like, cool, we'll go to a hotel and have dinner together. No, that's fucking boring. Every guy's trying to get her out for dinner. Make it crazy. We'll have an adventure. We'll rob a fucking bank. And we'll go back and we'll save our kids. And then we'll have amazing sex on top of all the cash. How do you feel about that? The girl's going to be like, oh my God, I'm so down. Right? The we frame. That's how you're going to get the girl to invest. She's going to want to build part of that narrative with you. The other thing, and the final thing of eliciting emotional investment is deep subcommunication, right? This is how you really do it. Like, this is the real shit. And this is what I do in my own game. You have to elicit emotional investment by giving her deep subcommunication. Remember we talked earlier about standard subcommunication, about how you position your body and stuff. But part of it is giving her your own indicators that you're interested in her. One thing I'll do a lot with girls is when I look at them, I'll bite my lips. Not like this, but I'll kind of do I'll just... And I'll look her up and down. And I'll look her up and down. I'll look at her mouth, and then I'll look at her eyes. And I'll go back and forth from her eyes to her mouth. And the girl literally just like falls into that fucking frame. Because I'm showing her I'm into you, and it turns her on too. But I don't say it. It's my subcommunication that's doing the work for me. You don't need to say these things. The second you start saying it and verbalizing it, I'm into you and I would do this to you, it becomes logical, and the girl's like, he would do this to me. But the second it's subcommunication, the girl understands it. And what she understands through your body language is more powerful than what you can say. Because again, you're being instead of doing. When you say things, you're doing. When you don't say it and you let your subcommunication do the work, you're now being. Other thing is facial reactions. Like, how do you react to her? When she says something, instead of reacting like, that's awesome, kind of be like, or, really? Right? And again, my subcommunication, the look on my face, the way I'm looking at her. Sometimes I'll even touch my hair. And I'll go like this. Now I have long hair, so I can kind of pull that off. Look at her and giving her my own indicators of interest. But however you look, if you have short hair, if you don't have a beard, whatever, you can do that too. Not the hair thing, but you can figure out ways. You look her up and down. Look at her in her eyes. Deep, penetrative eye contact. Remember we talked about it. Relaxed eye contact, like appreciating the girl, establishing that connection through your eyes. From the very beginning, you say hi, and then you look at her lips. Look back and forth. and see what happens there. It's that sub-communication that does the work for you. Now, the final part of this is learning about logical investment. But I don't want to teach you how to have the girl logically invest, because we already went over it when we talked about, setting up dates with the girl. That's the easiest part. Like, that's easy. Logical investment is pretty much what everyone does all the time. But what I want to tell you is, when is the time and the place for logical connection? When are you interacting with girls and you want it to be logical? Well, one is when you want to form a deep connection with the girl. So, for example, if I'm having a girl that I've been interacting with for like an hour in a nightclub, and she's following me around, and I know that I'm probably going to take this girl home because she doesn't want anyone else. She's following me around the whole night. We've been to another club, 2 different clubs. Maybe I'll have more of a logical frame and a logical connection with her because I'm more in a get-to-know mode. I'm more in a, hey, trust me mode. That's kind of when. And don't misinterpret this to like the way you pull is by being boring and logical. No. The way you take a girl out of a club is by being super emotional, super dominant, leading hard, leading without questioning yourself. Remember the fuckboy frame principles of, I'm already going here, come with me, making it happen. But that's not the one size fits all. Sometimes you're going to have longer interactions where the girl's like not sure about you. For example, during the day, a lot of times I'm more logical. During the day, I have more of a logical connection. Like, well, I'm on an instant date, for example. If I'm going to pull from the day game, maybe I'll be more logical. And the reason why I showed you guys the faster pulls is because you guys need to learn how to have these fuckboy frame principles. The longer pulls, the longer stay in interaction the whole day. Like, that's good, and that happens sometimes, but that's easy to do once you learn how to have the fuckboy frame principles. That's just you chilling out and being a guy who can relax. That's all the technical stuff. Right? But being a guy who actually has these principles, you're going to have to learn how to make shit happen. But sometimes you do want to be logical. Sometimes you do want to have the surface level logical frame, and you can have deeper connections with girls. You can actually get to know them. And the other thing is long-term relationships. For long-term relationships, generally, you want the girl to logically want you, actually. You want her to be like, I commit to this guy. Like, I'm not going to fuck anyone else. I want this guy because he's the best option. If it's an emotional, in-the-moment thing, she may not be serious about it. But there's the difference between the logical and emotional frame. Like, when you want, again, to summarize, when you want emotional investment, you have to let the girl give you room to invest. I mean, you have to give the girl room to invest. The girl has to have room to chase you. The second you're over-investing and you're chasing and chasing and chasing and trying to win, you're going to be losing out. You also have to come from the we storytelling frame. Like, you have to make it about us. You have to tell me and you are going to do this. We're going to go do this. We're going to do this crazy thing. Exaggerate it, but make it about us. We, the we frame. The other thing is deep sub-communication. So literally, let your body do the talking. Look at the girl like you want her. Look her deep in her eyes. Relax your body, but look her in her eyes while you're talking to her. When you go silent and you don't give her that validation, you don't give the attention, look at her. Let your body do the talking. That doesn't mean you're going silent. You're going silent with your words. Your body is still talking. Right? Give her indicators you're interested in her. Twirl your hair like this. Or, again, you don't have the hair, maybe. But this is something, it's a habit for me. Maybe I'll look at a girl and I'll go like this. Or I'll look at a girl and I'll go like this. Right? I've done this before. Like, I'll look at a girl and I'll just bite my finger. And then I'll take my hand, I'll put it on her neck, like right here. And I'll put my finger in her mouth. And then I'll just make out with her. It's crazy how that happens. It's so fucking powerful. Right? That's investment. That's what's going to get girls chasing you. You have to have that absence of you doing it. You have to give her fucking room. Sometimes you do want to have her logically invest. If you're trying to get in a long-term relationship, we'll talk more about that when it comes to building that dating abundance and actually getting a girlfriend. If you decide to do that, we'll talk about that later in the next module. But if you're not going to go for a long-term relationship, if you don't need a deep connection in the club or during the day, like for a 2-hour pull, 2-hour interaction, taking the girl home, get this emotional investment. Make this shit happen. This is the building blocks behind you having girls want you and need you.